Thank you, everybody, for joining us for a governance-led approach to AI for non-profits. I'm here today with Patham, and we'll do a quick introduction shortly. So we did do a little bit of housekeeping earlier. For those of you who weren't in the session, we do have the chat running instead of a Q&A today. So if you do have any questions you would like to ask, you are welcome to drop that in the chat as we go through. And if we have time, we'll try and answer some of those questions at the end. Your cameras are enabled for this session, but microphones are disabled. So if you do have some feedback or something you want to share back through and you would like to have your microphone enabled, please raise your hand and my colleague Sky will be able to enable your microphone for you. So kicking things off, a quick introduction to our presenters. So obviously myself, Rob Dawson, I'm the Head of Business Development at Mertech. And for those who don't know what business development is, that is sales and marketing. But I will disclaim this with, I do have a technical background. So I did start my career as a sysadmin in government. So I do have a bit of background there. I moved into document management, process automation, and software integration. Did that for a really long time, about a bit over 20 years in industry now. And now I'm back into the managed IT services space, where we talk and work with a lot of for-purpose businesses to help them with their IT, amongst other industries that we work with. I'll hand it over now to Patham for a quick introduction.
Thanks, Rob. Hello, everyone. My name is Patham, as you can see on the screen. I'm the Microsoft Tech for Social Impact Manager here at Pax8. And if you're wondering who Pax8 is, think of us as your Amazon or eBay. We're a cloud marketplace. This is where your IT providers, partners, resellers come to procure their Microsoft product, as well as some other vendor products as well. I've been with Pax8 for just over 2 years now, but I've been working in the tech for social impact space, collaborating with Microsoft for coming to about 5 years now. So I've been working with partners like Mertech all that time to help to take them the power of technology to nonprofit organizations. Yeah, back to you, Rob.
Very good. Thank you, Patham. And I will say that the sort of Pax8 has been great in our journey and our relationship together. So I'm really excited to hear what Patham has to say today. So just quickly, we will run through our agenda. So first, we will be getting an overview of Pax8's tech for social impact for non-profits, just what's happening in that space, and I will hand over to Patham to go through that component of the presentation. We'll then move into some of the more juicy stuff. So we'll be talking about data fundamentals, so what happens with data in your organisation. We'll then move into AI risk and governance and how those two things align. Talk a little bit about AI policy and how that can help with the governance in your organisation. And then at the end, we'll do a summary. And if we're running ahead of time, we may be able to squeeze in a quick Q&A there as well. So to get started, I'm going to hand over to Patham. Let's get things underway.
Thank you very much. So today you're all here to learn about AI and how AI can help you with putting the correct structure with data and governance in place. But before we get into that, I want to give you a quick introduction to what Pax8 does in this space, as well as what our program is. We have a program for Tech for Nonprofit, and it is a global program. And our mission is to curate a diverse selection of SaaS solutions that are tailored to address the distinctive requirements of nonprofits worldwide. And through strategic partnerships with vendors like Microsoft and resellers like Mertech, we want to make these solutions affordable and accessible to nonprofits globally. Ultimately, what we want is to get that power of technology in the hands of nonprofits like yours and empowering you to make a positive impact in your communities. There are 3 main pillars to this program. I won't go into too much detail, but basically the marketplace curation is getting those vendors into Pax8 marketplace that are very relevant to the nonprofit sector and making them accessible through our marketplace. Then comes reseller development, that is working with partners like Mertech, empowering and enabling them to go to market to help you adopt technology to advance your mission as well. Heart of our program is social impact. We know nonprofit organizations work hard to solve some of the world's most challenging problems. And at Pax8, we believe it is our shared responsibility and as well as an opportunity to help the sector. And I mentioned marketplace curation being the first pillar to our program. In our program, the biggest and most strategic vendor is Microsoft. Microsoft has been the true pioneer in this space through their Elevate program, which was previously known as Microsoft Tech for Social Impact. And Pax8 is one of their biggest partners globally, and they're heavily invested in collaborating to bring the power of technology to the sector that need it the most. Microsoft Elevate will be focusing on the benefits and challenges that will come from the economic and societal impact of the global AI transformation. This effort builds on the 50-year journey focused on helping people and organizations adapt to and benefit from advances in digital technology. And the newly formed Microsoft Elevate programs brings technological support, donations, and sales, not only to nonprofit organizations, but now they're extending that program to include schools, community and technical colleges as well. And as they did with the Tech for Social Impact program, they're investing some of the profits back into the program. Over the next 5 years, Microsoft has committed to donate on a global scale more than $4 billion in cash and AI and cloud technology to K-12 schools, community and technical colleges, and nonprofits to help advance your mission. But the only way technology can enable change is if people know how to use it. So they're investing in AI skilling as well, and they're also working with local, state, and regional government to advocate for AI policies that can help organizations as well. Microsoft Elevate's mission is about putting people first. Microsoft is committed to the creation and use of AI that serves humanity and respects fundamental human rights, in line with responsible AI principles. Now let's switch gears a little bit. We have a look at how AI can transform nonprofit organizations. So Microsoft, along with their partners like Pax8 and Mertech, are helping to accelerate AI transformation in nonprofits. We must ensure that our AI solutions are relevant for the nonprofit and IGO sector's most pressing needs. When we look at the sector, we are looking about 10 million organizations globally. Among nonprofits, 74% of them believe technology is essential, but only about 36% are satisfied with their existing technology. And because nonprofits are facing funding shortages, they know they will have to find more efficient ways to drive great impact. Roughly half of the nonprofits expect their increase in tech spending to grow as well. And we know it starts with the paper. Microsoft, along with their partners, aim to enrich staff experience by empowering every nonprofit worker and volunteer to do more with less. Through intuitive AI-powered tools, reduce friction and amplify impact, they take this technology to the next level. And then we talk about mission. We help nonprofits deliver impactful programs by streamlining operations and modernizing how they engage with constituents. As many in the room may know, relationships are at the core of nonprofit outreach. We enable organizations to engage supporters and funders more effectively, reaching more people, deepening trust, and driving sustained support. And finally, it's about scale and sustainability. We support nonprofits in transforming operations, evolving how they deliver mission-based work with agility, transparency, and measurable outcomes. Let's have a look at some of the challenges nonprofits face today. In this day and age, it's all about doing more with less, as I kept saying it a couple of times already now. In our conversations with nonprofit practitioners and widely cited researchers, common themes have emerged. In the latest 2024 State of Nonprofit Sector Report, Forbes Mazars found that 71% of nonprofits had increased demand for their programs. At the same time, we learned from the National Council of Nonprofits that nearly 3 out of 4 nonprofits reported job vacancies. According to the latest quarterly data from AFP's Fundraising Effectiveness Project, declining donors across all sizes and types present a major hurdle for nonprofits. In the recent research, independent sector found that a regular personalized communication is most effective in building sector trust. Approximately 50% of US nonprofits are operating on a financial precipice. A new report has shown this. At the same time, nonprofit workers are financially stressed and burnt out. So you can see, and I'm sure most of you have experienced this as well, the demand for resources are skyrocketing. At the same time, availability of financial and as well as human resources are dwindling down. This is where AI can be so powerful, where you can use AI to your advantage. So here are 5 critical ways AI drives value for nonprofits. First, mission alignment. AI tools help amplify impact and extend reach by leveraging data-driven strategies tailored to the nonprofit's core goals. They say failing to plan is planning to fail. Strategic planning can benefit from AI's ability to analyze trends, optimize resource allocations, and predict outcomes, which enhances donor engagement and program success. Then AI can boost operational efficiency by automating routine tasks, streamline data management, and delivering real-time insights, freeing staff to focus on mission-critical work. Data privacy and security. It is often overlooked, and you will hear more from Rob soon why security and governance is so important. Data privacy and security are strengthened through AI-powered automation of data protection, breach detection, and compliance, which builds stakeholder trust as well. Finally, AI accelerates fundraising by identifying potential donors, personalizing outreach, and providing predictive insights into donor behavior, maximizing contributions. Together, these drivers enable nonprofits to achieve sustainable growth through AI adoption. We can look at how AI can be leveraged to accelerate the mission by different functions of nonprofits as well. For instance, program delivery teams can create training material and improve communication staff, volunteers, beneficiaries using generative AI. We know marketing is a key function to attract donors and raise awareness. AI tools like Copilot can help identify market trends and draft campaigns. You can use AI for brainstorming for fundraising ideas and also to plan events as well. AI can be a powerful tool for your IT department and even for IT partners to ensure you are managing your data securely and compliantly. Copilot is now embedded in Microsoft apps like Excel and Power BI, which can immensely help with analyzing and reporting the finances. These are only a few functions that AI can be leveraged. The more you use AI, the more ways you will find AI can help your day-to-day job. Microsoft Copilot has been the key vehicle that has been driving AI transformation. As you can see from some of these stats, we have seen Copilot increases productivity. These are coming from some of the early adopters of Copilot in 2023. But if you want to look at nonprofit specific examples, some recent studies highlight how AI is transforming nonprofit organizations by enhancing efficiency and impact. Nearly half of the nonprofits are automating routine administrative tasks, which help staff to focus more on mission-critical activities and direct community support. AI assistants are also being used to provide immediate response to donors and beneficiaries, improving engagement and satisfaction. Additionally, AI tools are playing a crucial role in managing and analyzing data, enabling nonprofits to gain deeper insights and make informed decisions. These statistics underscore the growing adoption of AI to optimize operations and better serve communities. Here are a few real-life examples where organizations used AI to accelerate impact. AR Care in United States used AI to enrich staff experience by automating manual data collection, freeing up time for more meaningful resident care. Opportunity International is using an Azure-based generative AI chatbot to democratize information for farmers in Malawi. Head Start Homes, a charity based in Australia actually, was faced with challenges where demand for their service far exceeded their capacity. A challenge I'm sure many of you can relate. They collaborated with a local partner to adopt Microsoft Copilot to increase operational capacity and attract new funding. De Aliante, a social housing charity based in the Netherlands, built a generative AI chatbot using Azure OpenAI to digest information in their online knowledge base so staff can get accurate answers in seconds. And you can see more examples here. After the session, you will get a recording as well as this deck as well, so you can explore these links to find out more. But before I pass it over to Rob, I want to quickly touch on the business case for AI. Adopting AI is an investment. Not only the AI tools will cost you money, but it can also require some change management. It requires a change to how you approach work today. And sometimes it may need an infrastructure update, especially if you are yet to embrace cloud technologies. Is it really worth it? Recent Microsoft studies show that a return of investment for generative AI is about 3.7 times for every dollar you put in. And I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a very conservative estimate. I have been leveraging Microsoft AI tools for over a year now, and some of the benefits you simply can't put a number. But I understand starting the AI journey can be very daunting. It is evolving at a faster pace than anything else that we've experienced before. Security and governance should be at the heart of AI adoption. And that is what partners like Murtec can help you with. I'll pass it over to you, Rob. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Patham. Really good insights there, not just from a Pax8 perspective, but I think from a Microsoft perspective as well. So where they're seeing the impact across industry by using AI tools. So over to me. Before we get going, I will disclaim this with, and Patham and I have been laughing about this a little bit, I generally present in person. So you'll have to excuse me over the webinar. It may lose some of the impact that I normally have within my presentations, but we'll go with it anyway and we'll see how we go. All right, kicking things off. So why AI governance matters for NFPs. So you have a mission-driven risk profile, which means that your organizations generally will handle a lot of sensitive data. So donor data, beneficiary data, health data. You guys operate under really tight budgets as well. So responsible AI adoption is both a risk and an opportunity. And the pressure to adopt versus the capacity to govern. And I think this is probably one of the conversations that we're having more regularly now is, the tools are there and everyone's under pressure to put them in place and get them going and start using them to maximize the impact that you can have with the resources that you do have available. But generally what we find is that there's a lack of expertise, and it does say internal expertise in there. I'd go so far as to say that broadly there's probably a lack of expertise around AI governance within organisations, and there's not a lot of great resources that are made available to get to, excluding that provided from Microsoft, sort of outside of that ecosystem. There's not a whole lot of tools and not a whole lot of education, and if you don't have the internal resourcing to go and learn that, it can be challenging. So this is why I think that sort of the AI governance piece matters in particular for our for-purpose industries. So cutting down the core principles of AI governance. So the first is transparency. So how decisions are made by AI systems. The second is accountability. So who is responsible when AI fails or causes harm? The third is fairness and equity, so avoiding bias in AI models, especially in service delivery. And then obviously the security and privacy piece at the end there, so ensuring compliance with data protection laws and ethical handling of personal data, amongst a whole range of other things, which we'll get into throughout this presentation. All right, so the first section that we will go through is AI privacy and security governance. So the first thing to understand is where your data is stored. Now, as we go through this presentation, there'll be a lot of sort of prerequisite learning, which will help go through the final pieces where we talk sort of about policy and governance and security related to all of that. But the first thing that we like to run through is getting people a fundamental understanding of where their data is stored. So as an organization, your data will be stored in generally a bunch of different locations. What we've done here is we've just put some pretty recognizable logos into a bit of a layout there and put in our acronyms. In IT, we love acronyms. My favorite acronym is TLA. That is the three-letter acronym for three-letter acronym. I'm sure that even though your cameras are off, I'm sure you're all laughing behind the scenes there. So the first one there we can see is LOB. So that's just line of business application. So things like Salesforce. In legal, it might be Leap. In medical, it might be Clinico. There's thousands of line of business applications that sort of sit around the technology sphere. The second one there is IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service. So that's cloud hosted servers. So things like Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, and Google Cloud Platform. The third is software as a service. So things like Slack and Zoom, Dropbox, there's thousands of things that are software as a service. Now, what I will note here is there are things that are line of business applications that are delivered as software as a service. So just use as a rough guideline. This is just some fundamental stuff that that we want to try and wrap our heads around. There's obviously still on-premises infrastructure. We do still have clients that run on-premises servers and infrastructure that holds data. And then there's ERPs, which is enterprise resource planning systems. So things like Microsoft Dynamics, SAP, and Oracle are just some examples of that. ERPs are generally solutions that do the whole spectrum of everything that needs to be done within an organization, excluding your office productivity stuff. So things like Microsoft 365. So the next thing to understand for this presentation is around the hub and spoke model. So generally, all of your data is going to be stored within a hub in your organization. So think of that like a database or a series of databases that store all of the data in your organization. Generally, the hub stores the data, and what we use is we use spokes. Now, the spokes in that are meant to do transactions. So they transact things and collect information that feed that data back down into our hub so that we can store that and use it. The hub is for retention of data, and the spoke is to transact data or to collect or capture data that we can feed back down into our hub so that we can use and manage that data from that point forward. Some quick examples of what that might look like for an organization. So the first one that we can see, I'm not sure whether you can see my mouse hovering over the screen, but the one you can see up on the top left-hand side there is WordPress. So from your website, as an example, you might have people fill out an inquiry form and send that through to your organization. It may be program related, maybe donor related, maybe related to a whole bunch of different things. But the website itself doesn't store that data and you don't manage it from there. It gets sent in. Sometimes it'll come in via email. Sometimes it'll come in via API and go straight into your CRM or into your backend systems within your organization. But generally, it feeds down into the hub. Email is another really great example of ways that data can reach your organization to end up in the hub. I know that lots of people like to store all of their data and their important data in their emails, but generally speaking, for most organizations, what will happen is stuff will come in via email and it will get pushed back into our hub, into our systems where people can collaborate on that information that comes through there. And another example of that is something like Dext. So for those of you who don't know what Dext is, all it is it's a receipt reader. So it just reads receipts, matches them with credit card transactions and reconciles those and runs them back into your financial accounting system. Now, again, the data doesn't sit in Dext. It doesn't stay there. It just transacts that data for us, gets us the information we need, and pushes it back down into our hub. So an example of a hub. So hubs you guys may recognize, and this is a very Microsofty example. And I'm using this one because this is specifically what we at Mertech use internally as our hub. So we are a Dynamics house. We do have infrastructure as a service through Microsoft Azure. So we do have servers that sit in Microsoft's cloud. And we also use Microsoft 365 as our office productivity suite here internally. Now, between those two applications and that hosted server infrastructure, that's where 99% of our organization data sits. It sits within those sort of three application suites, and we would call that our hub. So that's our data hub. That's where everything sits. All right, so the next thing to understand is, how does data get in and out of that hub? So in our organization, and I know that there's quite a few people on here, and there'll probably be varying degrees of technical knowledge within this. I know that for some people here who are IT managers or executives in the IT space, that this will come as no surprise to you, but I think probably for some of our other people joining that may not be from a large organization and may not have that background, this will be incredibly useful to you to understand. So one of the things we want to understand is the flow of data, how things come in and out of our hub or out of our organization. So in terms of data ingress, so data ingress is stuff that's going in. So what's coming into our organization and having things flow into our hub. And then data egress is data that's going out. And how is it getting out of our organization? So data egress, that's things that might, so things coming in, it'll be data coming into our Salesforce or into our Dynamics or into our HubSpot or whatever it happens to be that's in our hub, data coming into the organization. And data egress is stuff that's going out of our organization. So it's stuff that may be shared out through Dropbox. It may be stuff that's sent out via emails. It may be stuff that, God forbid, gets put on a USB stick. Please don't do that. It's 2025, but it might get put on a USB stick and leave our hub. Now, there are some really important things to understand from a governance perspective around all of that, particularly from a data governance perspective, is that things that are leaving our organization, we talk about things like data custody, who is the custodian of that data and who is the owner of that data. Once they leave your hub, the lines become a bit blurred. So that's something that's just keep in the back of your mind. We'll come back to that piece a little bit later on through the presentation. So what does all of this have to do with AI? Let's talk about some of the AI tools that are available. Now, we're a big Microsoft partner, and we do a lot of work with Microsoft, you know, obviously through our relationship with Pax8, but we are a vendor agnostic solutions provider. And what that means is that we don't specifically choose to sit just within the Microsoft ecosystem. We do work with other tools and other platforms depending on our customer requirements as well. So we do have quite a broad scope in that capacity. So the next thing that we want to talk about is we want to talk about AI tools and where they fit within your organization. Over on the left-hand side, you'll see embedded tools. So these are things that sit within your hub and already have access to the data and the ecosystem that you work in every day. So things like Copilot, Gemini for Google, but something like Canva, if you're a Canva user, you know, that might be part of your marketing ecosystem. The AI tool sits within that application. The next one in the middle there is the standalone applications, or what we call point solutions. So these applications sort of sit independently on their own. You have to leave your ecosystem to go and engage with these tools. So they generally sit outside of your organization. There are heaps of ways that you can connect them in, but we'll come back to that a little bit later. And the next one on the far right-hand side is owned. So there are people who are internally building large language models and their internal GPTs, and they're using their own data sets to bring all of those in. Now, the context for all of this is that embedded applications, so things that sit within your ecosystem, they already have access to your hub. And we'll come back to why that's important a little bit later in the presentation. The ones in the middle, by default, don't have access to your hub. You have to leave your organization to go and engage with those platforms. And then the third one on the right-hand side is obviously built internally, and it will have access to your data sets or your hub of data within your organization. We probably won't talk about the owned ones. I think probably for the context of this presentation, there wouldn't really be many people that would be using an internal LLM. If you are though, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always interested to hear about those. All right, so how do we overcome some of the risks of these other tools that sit within the ecosystem? The first thing that we always recommend, particularly if you're a smaller organization, is simplify your technology stack to get AI ready. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a whole stack of probably recognizable brands and applications, and then sort of in the middle there, we'll see Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace. Generally, what we recommend to people is try and move from those products in the left-hand side and try and rationalize all of your data back into a hub that AI will have access to. So that's both applicable for Microsoft 365 and for Google Workspace. But there is an equivalent product that sits within each of those ecosystems that will be able to do the work, that the things that you see on the left-hand side. So what we would call a point solution. Easy example is you might see Dropbox or Box down in the content management. There are tools available within your office productivity ecosystem that can do those things. So generally, in terms of getting AI ready, we generally want to push things out from the left and try and get them consolidated and rationalized into those products on the right. So there are some other advantages. Simplifying the stack will also give you reduction in costs. So for subscription fees, so offsetting subscription fatigue, it's much easier to tighten security, implementing things like principle of least privilege and access control around the data that sits within those ecosystems. And employee onboarding, offboarding is heaps easier. There's a whole bunch of advantages. Now, what I will say and disclaim this with is I know that the products on the left are better. They only have to do one thing. They're always just going to be the best at doing that. But I think the products on the right are probably appropriate enough to do 99% of the things that you need to do. Someone's just pointed out that yes, Outlook is not an equivalent for MailChimp, and Customer Insights is the right product for that. So Dynamics 365, which we use internally, which is how you will receive the link for this webinar, funnily enough. Thank you, Alex. All right, coming back to risk compliance and data governance. So embedded AI tools, intrinsically, they have hub access. You don't need to take data out of your ecosystem to be able to use them. And that's important to understand. How do the AI tools work? So how do embedded AI tools work? I love this diagram from Microsoft that sort of shows the workflow. So basically from within your application, so within your Microsoft 365 app, if you were using Copilot, basically it'll run from the app, it'll come down and do some grounding. So basically it'll look at your data sets that you have internally, so what's sitting in your hub, use that data to try and form its response. The next thing it will do is go out to the large language model, which is still contained within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So it's not leaving to go somewhere else and use it. It's still within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. It will go out there to find the rest of the information it needs to form its response. It will send that back into your ecosystem, ground that against the data that you have in there to form your response and send it back. Now, the important thing to understand about all of this is that your query going into here and what gets pushed out into the large language model and gets pushed back in is contained within Microsoft's 365 ecosystem within its service boundary. So it's not leaving Microsoft 365. And the other thing that's important is that you see here it says modified prompt. Now, what Microsoft does is it's stripped out so it's essentially de-identified your original request before it sends it out into its large language model. So completely decoupled from the query that you initially sent in. So none of your data leaves that ecosystem, and none of the data or query leaves the entirety of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So important to understand. So data egress is where AI becomes a little bit risky. So one of the things that AI loves is context. So if you want a better response, you have to give it more context. And the more context you can give it, the better the response is going to be. Now, how do we give it context? Well, the easiest way to give it context is to give it data and feed it data that's related to the thing that we want the ability to do. So any data that is stored in your hub, we suggest should not be transferred to a standalone AI tool. Once it leaves your hub, you're sort of not in control of what happens to your data from that point in time forward. So we're talking about that data egress piece, data that leaves your organization. Who's the custodian and who is the owner of that data after it leaves? Some examples of how this may happen. So egress examples. So from the hub, you might connect up. I see that ChatGPT now allows for API connection. So you can basically connect ChatGPT up straight to your hub to allow it to transact data, to use it more effectively. Users can upload data. I think that's what we saw a lot early on. Users were uploading whole bunches of data into ChatGPT. And I'm calling out ChatGPT here. It's just the most known. It is happening across a lot of different platforms across the AI ecosystem. There's a lot in that sort of AI landscape now, but we'll just use ChatGPT because it's the most, it's probably the most prominently used or has been to date. Users can upload data into that to get better responses, and you can connect it directly to your data sources as well, which is something that we're seeing more and more. You see there we're using sort of Sambly as an example. One of the things that we do like to talk about a little bit is connecting those third-party transcription tools, and you see them, they'll just pop into your meeting, you know, your meeting transcribers from other organizations. That's another way that they're sort of connecting to a data source. So even though we're talking, it's transcribing that, and that data's leaving your ecosystem and into an environment that you don't know where it's going and that you don't have any control over. So some of the challenges with that is that for the most part, there's no visibility. You can't really see the data that's leaving and being transacted and where it's going to. There's no auditability against a lot of that either, unless you have some really strong data governance tools that are monitoring data leaving your organization. Commonly, there's no knowledge of it happening. And I think that that's where a lot of smaller organizations are struggling, is they don't really know that it should be, whether that's happening or not. And there's limited enforcement capability as well. I think one of the things that AI did really well, particularly generative AI, was made it so accessible to anybody. Anybody could just open it on their phone or in a web browser and just start using it. So there's limited enforcement capabilities around that as well. So once data leaves, commonly we don't have any control. Your data governance doesn't apply anymore. So if you've got data governance framework, commonly that won't apply anymore. Who is the custodian of that data? So, you know, is it the spoke owner, i.e., you know, OpenAI or ChatGPT? Are they now the owner of that data? Do you still own it? And that's where the lines get a bit blurred and a bit messy. So there are some risks. You do lose ownership of inputted data. You don't have any oversight over how your employees are using it, and unmanaged software that your IT, either internal or external, has limited ability to be able to secure. So standalone tools do have a place, but generally we recommend that if you're not using it, to not use it in your sort of day-to-day workflows against your internal data sets for stuff that's in your hub. And we'll come back to how we can do that, because one thing I will admit, and I hope Pathm's not listening, is that those standalone tools, I can concede, are commonly better at a lot of stuff than the internal built tools. So things like Copilot and Gemini. So we do know that, and we do know that people are going to rush to them and use them if they're not getting what they want from the internal system. But I think there's opportunity to use both, and both have a place within our organizations. And the next part that we come to now is defining appropriate usage. So embedded tools are really great for things like meeting notes and sales proposals, creating presentations, anything that you need to give it context, or you need to use your internal data to be able to essentially get a great response. So anything that's contextual, really, really safe, easy way to get into using AI is to use those embedded tools, because they offset a lot of that risk component. That said, the standalone tools are really, really good, and I think in certain respects they're definitely better. Again, like the point solutions from our system rationalization slide, they're better products and deliver better results in certain areas. And some of those things might be idea creation and content generation, doing research, fantastic research tools, essentially anything that doesn't need any context. So you're starting from scratch. You know, a really good example, if you're an organization that does fundraising, you might go, hey, I'm this with this type of organization, we're looking to do some donor outreach. Can you list 50 organizations within 50 kilometers of where we are who might be worth touching base with, so we can start generating a prospects list for our team to be able to reach out to. You know, so they're really good at doing things like that. So the next piece that we'll run through is technical considerations for your AI policy. So one of the ways that we can sort of enforce governance around this is via policy. So let's run through what these are. I realize we're getting pretty slim on time, so I'm going to zoom through these, but no, you will get a copy of the presentation at the end. So things that are important to drop into your AI policy if you are working on one, or if you've already done one, maybe you pen these things in if they're not there. So approved tools and use cases. Make sure that the tools that are made available to your team are company sanctioned. So you know what they're using and how they're using it and in what context they're using it. So an example, Microsoft Copilot is a super safe way of being able to get into using AI if you're already on Microsoft Stack. You know, you might use that for, like it says, summarizing emails, drafting documents, but anything that sort of needs contextual responses that needs to use the internal data. And ChatGPT might be used for something like brainstorming or content generation. So defining those out and making very clear what they are. So data privacy and security. Specify what data can be entered and how it's protected. So what's permitted data? Now, I know it says here publicly available or anonymized data. I still think there's a bit of risk with anonymized data, particularly if you're not using it, you know, sort of from within those embedded AI applications. I generally still don't like sending it up because if you send enough, it'll be de-anonymized because the AI will be able to work it out anyway. So prohibited data, so things like personal identifiers, financial records, I think things that go without saying. And then the security measures that you can use is things like Microsoft data loss prevention and information protection tools for automatic classification and encryption of sensitive data is also another great thing that you can use, and just makes it easier for the user to understand whether or not they should or should not be uploading those types of information. Third-party risk, so addressing risk from external AI vendors or unmanaged tools. So have a non-sanctioned tool thing. I think for most clients that we work with, we say have a sanctioned tool list, keep working on that and get people to come to you with strong business use cases, have the opportunity to review their you know, sort of their privacy and their data governance and what it's going to mean for your organization before adding it to the tool list. And it's also an opportunity to intercept on the way through and find out why someone wants to use an external tool when an internal tool may be able to do the exact same thing, and you have the opportunity to educate them on that. Audit and logging. So have an audit logging piece in your policy. It's great if you can log the AI interactions because it's great for compliance, give you insights and give you the ability to go back and look at those types of things. And from a monitoring perspective, it will give you insights into how those things are being used. So it's sort of a twofold advantage if you can have auditing and logging enabled around your AI usage. User training, really important piece. Provide ongoing training, but do it during onboarding. So if you're onboarding new people into your organization, it's a great opportunity to get them to adopt this policy, understand what's going on, and understand your governance framework around AI usage within your organization. Incident response, always have an incident response plan and make sure you can either include an incident response around AI in your AI policy or have it separately and include the AI incident response as part of your incident response plan if your organization has one of those. But basically, what are the protocols for misuse or data breaches and what to do if you discover that that has occurred, immediate actions, who do you need to notify, and what's your remediation plan as sort of some of the key examples that we would include in a policy internally. All right, and in summary, so in practice, it's a people, process, and technology thing. So it's not just a piece of technology. It's not just people using it and engaging it. It's the process around it and how they do that. So for people, guide them on how to use it safely and effectively and within your governance and policy framework as well, and define that very clearly what those are and make sure it's easily adoptable. From a process perspective, ensure that policies and procedures are clear and encompassing. So I think that's why we have our technical considerations piece. Just make it very, very clear so that there's sort of no grey area around your policy. And with technology, be intentional with the technology that you use and approve within your organization. Have people come to you, get them to build a business case before you consider just rolling things in, as opposed to maybe just folding to a bit of pressure, which you may get internally from your people or from your external stakeholders. So the why behind all of this. So people offer human oversight, which is really important, I think, with AI. The process gives structured workflows and governance frameworks to guide the responsible usage within your organization. And the technology piece, select robust, secure and scalable platforms with AI capabilities. It'll do yourself a favor and pay dividends, I think, long-term for your organization is what we have seen in the past. So key takeaways: simplify and rationalize your IT stack. Speak with your IT provider or your internal IT team about data governance standards, data quality and security. Make AI tools available to your team as our number 3. If you don't make it available to them, they'll just go and use whatever's available and you'll invariably lose a bit of control. And the 4th one is work with your IT provider or partner to make sure you have sanctions in place so that you can and talk to your lawyer about turning those into an AI policy. So for your AI policy, I'd recommend getting legal advice as well before rolling that out in your organization. And we are 1 minute over time. So thank you everybody for joining us. I've not looked in the chat yet. I can see Sky's looking at me going, there is 2 questions. So Patham, if you would like to join us and maybe come back to us to answer some of those questions. I'm just opening chat here now. Okay, so I can see one there from Alex. That's a great question. Alex, I'm not sure whether you're still on the call, but is there a way to bring the data from external SaaS applications into your hubs? It depends. So generally speaking, I would say that, yeah, we'd like to try and do a migration of data and bring it back in and start doing all of the transactions from within the 365 ecosystem. Understanding, you've used an example here of Monday.com. Maybe it's not particularly feasible for you to be able to do that. And what you could potentially use Monday.com as is as a spoke and potentially feed data back into your hub. It's not something that someone has asked me to do yet, but I'm pretty sure from Power Platform there is a pre-existing connector for Monday. So you may be able to incorporate it that way by using Copilot Studio and being able to bring those data sets back in through Power Platform and potentially using the Copilot Studio to be able to bring that in and apply AI to it that way. Fathom, did you have anything you wanted to add on that one?
No, I think you covered it. You know this side better than I do, so yeah.
I know. Secretly, I'm a nerdy guy. I can't wait to get off this and go and play my Xbox. That's all right. And I think there was a second question there. Oh, yep. We should also avoid transferring data from one hub to another. So example, Canva AI is embedded in Canva, but won't have access to anything in your Microsoft hubs. Yeah, absolutely, Alex. That's a really good point. One of the things that we do that I sort of commonly get asked about is sort of something in a similar vein. And generally people will say, oh, I've got data here, but I also have it here in my hub, and my hub may have things in it that are not like connected to one another, or they're not integrated together. How do we sort of overcome that? And can we use data sets across both of them? I think it's on a case-by-case basis. Probably in the example of Canva, I wouldn't be going down the path of trying to upload or push data from within my sort of controlled data ecosystem, being something like, say, Microsoft or Google as your office productivity suite, and seeking to try and push a bunch of data up into Canva so that Canva AI can use that. But I would also probably think that maybe Canva is not the best example, because commonly Canva is used for sort of new graphic design and sort of in that creative space, and we may not need a lot of that grounding data to do that. Potentially a better example of that might be something like a standalone CRM, like a HubSpot, for example. Do we want to push data from Microsoft into HubSpot, or from HubSpot back down into Microsoft so that we have the ability to use it? For me, I'd go, where is most of my data sitting, and where do I, as the owner of that, where do I have the most opportunity to govern that data? And I think that's one of the strengths of things like the Office Productivity Suite provided by Microsoft, being Microsoft 365, is that you do have the opportunity to to apply a lot of data governance controls over the data that sits in that ecosystem. So for me, generally, I would be trying to pull things down from those other applications in your hub back down into the Dataverse, so in sort of the Power Platform capabilities of the Microsoft suite. So anything you want to add to that one, Patham?
No, couldn't have said it better.
Very, very good. Well, I hope that answers those questions. I see Claudia. Oh, good. I've already answered your question for you, so that was nice. Got covered somewhere in the presentation. So again, thank you everybody for making the efforts come along this morning. I really appreciate your time. I know that time is very valuable to all of us. I hope you took something away that is useful or important for your organisation, and it helps you have a governance-led approach to your AI deployment within your organisation. Thank you again.